Joey Reed, father of Trevor Reed, thank you so much for joining us. First, what is the latest that you can tell us about the status of your son's health? I know this morning the release went out saying that he had been transferred yet again to this medical prison in Russia. So fill us in, please, on what you know. What's the latest?
We found out that on Friday he was moved to IK-21, which is a prison that has a hospital. He was there a week ago for about 10 days for a possible broken rib. They took an x-ray that didn't take, and they, as far as we know, they still haven't tested him for tuberculosis, which we believe he has. And so anyway, they sent him back to his prison, put him in solitary confinement, and he started a hunger strike. It's against all Russian laws to put an injured or ill person in solitary confinement. So he started that on Monday, the 28th at 10 a.m. And then Friday morning, which would have been 4 full days on the hunger strike, they pulled him out. He had an attorney that, requested all of his medical documents and that he be treated. And they pulled him out of solitary and apparently sent him back to the hospital. We don't know anything past that. We don't know what's happening. So
I'm so sorry. So let me ask you, as far as his tuberculosis, you believe he has it because these are the symptoms that he's described to you?
Yes, he's continually coughing up blood. He has a fever off and on. I believe he has a loss of appetite. He has basically the 3 or 4 key symptoms of active tuberculosis, according to doctors we've spoken to.
And when was the last time you actually spoke with him or a representative of yours actually got to see him?
We weren't able to speak to him for 232 days. And then out of the blue, just before the war, they let him call the U.S. Embassy, and they routed the call to us. So we were able to speak to him several times over a 2-week period. And then he was sent to the hospital, as I said, a couple of weeks ago, and he couldn't call us from there. And then when he got back to the prison, they cut off all his communications and threw him in solitary confinement again. And we sent an attorney to see him on Tuesday, March 29th. And he then confirmed that he was put back in solitary confinement with no medical treatment.
So last Wednesday, you and your wife, Paula, demonstrated out in front of the White House in Lafayette Park, seeking a meeting with President Joe Biden. You got that meeting with the president later in the day. So what was that like for you and your wife in the hours leading up to that, not knowing whether you would have a meeting with the president?
Well, of course, our anxiety is ever increasing over, a 2-year, 8-month period. Like many other hostage families. We didn't anticipate actually getting a meeting while we were in Washington. We were just hoping to get one scheduled, as the president had promised when he was in Fort Worth a few weeks earlier. So we were elated, when they called us. We were in the MSNBC studios for a live interview. And while we were waiting, the White House called and said, can you come in a couple hours? And so we did it. And, so we're hoping that that something will come of that. We know the president listened intently to everything we had to say. He was just wonderful man to speak with, and hopefully we convinced him that we need to get our son out of there before it's too late. And there's several other Americans in the same situation.
And what was did he make any commitments or promises to you?
No, and if I was him, I would not either. He's dealing with more things than any single person in the world, and we understand that. But at the same time, this is an issue that America's had for a long time: how we bring our wrongfully detained Americans home. And so, but he listened to all of our views on the issue, and so we'll see what happens.
And I know that they had described, your spokesman described the president as being very gracious. How would you describe him?
That's a perfect description of how he was. He was warm. It's like, meeting with an old friend or a relative. And like I said, it's amazing that, the busiest man in the world has time to listen to you, for 40 minutes, uninterrupted. Just amazing.
And as far as, do you think that that meeting in any way helped your son get to be transferred to the medical prison in Russia?
I don't know that that meeting itself did that, because the United States government has been very ineffective in getting the Russians to do anything, as you can see through current sanctions. And so usually I think it's an accumulation of different things, but including media. And don't get me wrong, the United States Embassy is constantly prodding the Russian government to have better treatment for our son and release him, and for Paul Whelan. And we know that, and we're very appreciative of it. But we think it was probably several things that occurred that caused him to be sent back to the hospital.
And I noticed again in the release today, just about the update, that you really asked the Biden administration to act with urgency. What more do you think they can do?
Well, one thing that we've spoken out about for months, over a year, is that Russia has said all along that they want a prisoner swap. They have citizens that we arrested overseas that they believe were arrested wrongfully. They don't say they're innocent. They just say that they were wrongfully arrested and convicted, and which is what the government says about my son and Paul Whelan. And so, we figure their people have been here for years. They'll be home before our relatives are let out. And their prisoners are living in wonderful conditions in our federal penitentiaries, with modern facilities and dietary meals, and they're warm and they're cool, and they've got great clothing and, cable TV, and can call home every week in their native language. And my son is in a third world gulag, using a hole in the floor for a toilet and not seeing another person for weeks.
Hmm.
So we need to get Americans like him out of those places, and we're hoping that they'll bring my son home and Paul Whelan, and that will start an effort to do that with all of the Americans around the world that shouldn't be there.
And how concerned are you? I remember when you were interviewed last week about your concern that the Russians will file even more, you said, false charges against your son.
Standard operating procedure for the FSB. My son has met many, many people that had multiple false charges put on them, and they weren't even the person accused of doing something. They just wanted you to file or to make false accusations against someone the FSB did want to imprison. And if you don't, then they file charges against you, and they continue to do that. And if that doesn't work, then they file them on your family and friends.
And your son is a Marine veteran. And so when did he go to the Marines? What did he do while he was there? And when did he leave the Marine Corps?
He joined in at the beginning, January of 2011. He got out in January or February of 2016. He joined with an infantry contract to go to Afghanistan, but in boot camp, he was selected for the Presidential Guard program. And he went through about a year and a half of background investigations for that program. He extended a year to get that. And then he ended up serving at the Marine Barracks in Washington, D.C., and then later at Camp David, where he protected President Obama and Vice President Biden and their families. And after that, he went to, sorry?
I was just going to ask you, did he ever get a chance to meet President Obama and Vice President Biden?
We don't believe that he ever had a direct meeting with President or Vice President Biden, but he definitely met President Obama. We have many pictures of him. Each president meets all of the military personnel that work there each time they go, if they have time, so that eventually everyone gets photographs taken with the current sitting president. So anyway, yes, and then I was with my son when he had photos taken in the Oval Office at the end of his service. So.
Wow. And so then my last question to you is if you can just fill us in on why Trevor was in Russia.
He went there to visit his longtime girlfriend. They've been dating for about 3 years. She spent her summers in Texas with us, and he was there for the summer to decide if they were going to get married. And he was taking Russian language classes to help him with his courses at the University of North Texas.
And how did he meet her?
They met online and went on vacation in Greece together.
Okay. And my last question is, what do you think people here in North Texas, I know you live in Granbury, what has the support been like from the community, and what can people do to help if they would like?
The two things we ask people to do is, share Trevor's story with other people, just spread the word, either on social media or just person to person, and go to the whitehouse.gov/contact and write a short, quick message to the president and say, bring Trevor Reed and Paul Whelan home from Russia and all the other Americans held around the world wrongfully. And that's the biggest thing that people can do to help us.
Well, Joey Reed, thank you so much. We appreciate your time, and obviously we wish you and your wife and Trevor all the best.
Thank you.